Well guys, Ham here, as promised, a video around what line weights I use, what sinkers I use, what type and style of hooks I use when targeting different species. So as you can see, I've got my trusty Okuma Nanomatrix MD rod, and this has the 8K surf reel on it. My flight reel's on the Katari, and this line here, the main line, that real thin stuff there, is 6 kilo. Okay, 6 kilo, about 15 pound, and then I go into 40 pound or 20 kilo, roughly about, of shock leader. So that's what I run, and there's a knot there, another knot there, the tapered piece in the middle. Okay, so that's how I sort of do it. Okay, so that's the line weights I use. So to have a look, it is the Tritanium, Suffix Tritanium, 6.8 kilos, which is around 15 pound. That's my main line, that's the orange line you saw, and then I tie it to Black Magic 40 pound, the pink sort of leader that you see in store there. So that's the leader I use. Now the length of leader, as you can tell, this is the knot here, the rod's there, and the length of the leader for me is I get the leader around the reel and do 5 winds. So it's quite long. As you can see, we come all the way out to a clip. Now this swivel clip here, the bead is primarily just to stop that swivel going into the eye when I'm traveling, because I put my rods on my roof. If you don't trust someone to wind the rod in correctly and they bring the swivel into the eye, it can stuff your eyes, so put a bead on. If you don't have that worry, you don't need the bead. Swivel clip, and all my lines and my traces and that just go straight onto there, and then I can change my rigs quite quickly. If there's weed, I take all this off and I tie directly to the trace, to the rig. Okay, because the less stuff to grab weed, the better. However, generally fishing cleaner waters, so don't have that issue, so that stays on all year round unless I need to take it off with weed. So if you're running 6 kilo or 8 kilo line and you're tying a sinker to that, the chances of breaking that line on the cast is pretty high. So that's why it's important to run a shock leader. This basically loads up the sinker, takes all the weight out of it. There's no pressure on the knots or the line, the lighter line, the main line. And then with the bail arm up, as it takes off, this is just free spooling out, so there's no pressure on that small line. That's the whole point of a shock leader. And if you're fishing rocks, the bigger the shock leader, 60 pound, 80 pound if you need to, just shock abrasion, so you get the proper, abrasion of that. Mono will put up with a lot more resistance than the skinny stuff. I personally run mono. I don't like braid. It's a personal choice. Some people love braid. Some of the areas where I fish, there are rocks out there. Under pressure, if it touches a rock, it's going to go ping, you're going to lose everything. Also casting, a lot more chance of wind knots and tangles. So that's only my experience. What I've found, some people love it, they use it, carpi, nothing wrong with that. This is what I run, and I find this works for me. So take from this what you will. So that's the main line, the shock leader, and the clip I have on the end, and the reasons why I run that. So generally I run 6 kilo or 8 kilo main line, and generally it's always the 40 pound for me, and the beaches down the lower North Island, I generally, even in Wellington Harbour, just run my 40 pound. Never have too much issues with that. Right guys, so now I'm going to talk to you about hooks. So generally the hooks I run, the main hook, because I usually use 2 hook rigs with a keeper, usually a 5 hook is the main one, then a 3 keeper, or a 4 main one and a 2 keeper. Generally, these are 5 and 3s, and these are circle hooks. So I quite like the circle hooks myself. Generally they hook themselves. With these hooks, circles and recurves, you do not have to do the big strike. You simply grab the rod when you see a bite and just lift up gently, and that generally will roll this hook in the corner of the mouth. They can hook themselves as well, so I generally stick with these hooks here. However, in winter, the beak hooks, or suicide hooks, is a size 5 and a size 3 here. So that's what they look like, your normal generic hook that you see with the straight barb. It's not a straight hook, not bent at all, in recurved in or anything. There's a smaller one. Okay, these ones here are good through winter, when the fish are just mouthing the bait, not quite getting the aggressive take that they normally do in spring and summer, so therefore striking action. So when you see that bait get up, strike the rod, and then you hope that it's got its mouth closed over that bait at the time to strike, pulling that hook through the mouth. So that's generally how they work. Big hooks generally have to strike. The recurve and the circle hooks, you don't have to strike, it's just a gentle lift, put some weight on, bring that hook round in the corner of the mouth. These suicide hooks get swallowed a bit more. Not saying super hooks work all the time, they sometimes get swallowed, not as often as big hooks. Suicide hooks, they've got small hooks, big fish, going to swallow it. Alright, so my size 2 and 3 bar hooks, if they're not as a keeper hook, I use them for my moki rigs, and I always use, for me, I use circle hooks. I've caught plenty of moki size cheese on the little circle hooks. A little bit of cray, paddle crab, even fish bites work for moki, I found. It's the only thing with coral fish bites, but they work. So there you go, and by themselves, not mixed with bait. Anyway, so that's some things around moki fishing. For snapper, gurnard, I generally go to a size 4 or 5 main hook with, like I said, a 3 or a 2 keeper, and that's for your oily baits that you generally put out for snapper, gurnard, carwai. They catch all those species, trevallies. They're generally the only 2 styles of hooks I run, and the reasons behind it is to what I just said. Winter I usually go to beaks just for that mouthing, strike, get the fish. For the rest of the year, generally circle hooks do it for me. All the fish you've seen on Facebook throughout the summer season have all been on these circle hooks. Exactly the ones I just showed you are the ones I use. And generally the rigs, pulley rig, or running rigs, and for moki, just the ledger rigs with little 2 or 3 bar hooks. So we move on to the sinkers. So the sinker weight. Now the sinker weight is not what holds the sinker on the bottom of the beach, okay? It comes down to the wires. It's how good the wires are, is how good that weight's going to hold out there. Now with mono, you get stretch with the swell, so it doesn't pull straight out. With braid, if your swell picks up, it's going to lift your sinker out. It doesn't have any give. So another reason why I love to use mono. Personal choice, only for me, don't have to do it. However, with the size, so I use generally 4s and 5s. Now I use the Sea Harvester sinkers because Boss have closed down. They were the better sinker on the market. Boss have closed down. They had the best wires on the market at the time. Now basically what's left on shelves is the last run. The guys retired. I don't think anyone's bought the business since they put it up for sale. So I found Sea Harvester sinkers are the next best thing. Now, if there's next to no current or a little bit of current, I'll use a size 4. If there's more current, quite a strong current, I'll go to a size 5. I generally don't go any higher than a 5, and it holds for me. Now, the sinker weight is only to get to the bottom. From the time it hits the water to the time it sinks to the bottom, it's going to drift in the current line. That's all the weight's doing. Everything else, once it's set and you pull your sinker up and you set your sinker, you pull the slack line and set your sinker with a bend in the rod, it comes down to the wires. So I've found that these wires, and I'll open up this 5 bar here for you, these wires here are the next best thing since Boss aren't around anymore. Almost the same shape as the Boss, they fit and they ping in real tight into their grooves. As you can see, they all fit in their groove, and they are strong wires. They're quite strong to pull, and they stretch back, they don't just bend over and fold. So that's the reason why I use Sea Harvester, and it comes down to the wire is what holds your sinker, not the weight. The weight will get it to the bottom of the ocean. If it's 10 metres, it's going to drift more than 5 metres, and if it's a strong current, it's going to drift more around before it hits the ground, and you can get to set the sinker. That's all the weight does. It shuts the gap from the top of the water to the bottom. The wires is what holds your weight in place for your rigs, where they sit. Okay, so a bit of tip there. So generally, I love to cast 4s. They go further than a 5. Well, some people cast 5s further. I won't say that, but for me, I use 4s. They generally work for me. I can cast these about, well, with a rig on, probably 130 metres. Dry casting about 140. So, you know, you're getting out there past those last waves. There, guys. So there you go. The lines I run, the shock leader, the hooks, the styles, the reasons why, and sinkers. Hopefully that's helped you guys a little bit around what I use and the reasons why. At the end of the day, everyone will have their own preference and what they want to do, or what they do. You just take from what you want, but if it's going to help you in some way, cheers guys, enjoy your fishing, tight holes.